I think many people may be wondering, Chantal, how do you know so many different types of languages and etc. etc. and how did you learn them? And how did you do it without offending other people or anyone else, or like being a busybody or a nosy person? There was a girl that I went to school with. She was from Iraq, and her family immigrated, and her brother was in the same grade as me, same class. So like we're born the same year, so that's how they're categorizing it in the public school. So everybody who was born the same year is placed in the same grade and they get the education per age group. Her brother was like not the brightest bulb, like not the sharpest tool in the shed. And her name was Hannah. I think she made it like a nickname to tell other people. I actually don't know what her legitimate documentation name is, but she only learned how to speak Korean not because she wanted to be friends with Korean people. Like, that was her being superficial about it. She thought it looked good. She just wanted to know what the other kids were saying because there were so many Korean kids at the school and so many Korean businesses, and she didn't understand what they were saying or what they were doing. But, like, they weren't, like, that's her, like, the implication in English being, like, she thinks that they're criminals, and she thinks that the only reason, like, she should know is because she needs to know everything, even though there were French being taught at schools, there was English being taught at schools, and there were kids from different racial backgrounds who spoke different languages that she had no interest in learning. So there was a lot of Chinese kids. There was more Chinese kids than Korean kids, and there were a lot of people who were from Iran, a lot of people from Saudi Arabia, a lot of people from Afghanistan. She wasn't interested in learning any of those languages because she said that she already understood what they were like because they're all from the same general area. But, like, but I'm like, why aren't you interested in learning, like, Taiwanese or Mandarin or Cantonese, or learning how to read Chinese, or, like, Laotian or Cambodian or something like that? Like, that's kind of weird that you just want to specifically choose Korean. And I think it was because that was around the time that K-pop was getting really popular. So, like, Korean dramas, Korean music, it was starting to become, like, a widespread hit amongst many people. So she wanted to know what they were saying, and she was like using that as an excuse, saying like, yeah, I want to understand Korean dramas and Korean pop music and stuff, but it was literally just to eavesdrop on other people and get in on their business. And I'm like, and she thought that people spoke different languages because like they just don't want people to know what they were saying or doing, and she didn't really speak Korean anyway. So she couldn't understand what they were saying anyway, even though she learned the alphabet and she knew how to write sentences and she knew how to say like conversational Korean and stuff like that. It's not really conversational Korean. It's like how you talk shit, but that's like for pedophiles and perverts and like people who end up in prison. Like, that's how they speak. Hence why they translate it that way for the game Fallout 76. Because they're saying like the only reason this character would be going through that is because this person's a pervert, pedophile, freak of nature. And has hurt so many people, and like they live in hell land. They live in demon world. They live there, and they're supposed to just try to like finish quests so they can continue to like eat and have something to do. That's it. Like, that's what they're saying. Because like otherwise it wouldn't really make sense for the character to be like in the Fallout scenario. Like, why is everyone like that? Why is like blah blah? Why is all these happening? It's because you had something to do with things that are happening in your life. That's why. Ow. I got a bug bite or some allergic reaction stuff, and it's been bothering me, and I don't know what to do about it. Yeah, so I was like, I didn't like it, honestly. Like, I hated the fact that she was doing that just to, like, be nosy on other people. And other Korean kids already knew that's what she was doing. I just stayed away from her, and I completely never spoke Korean to her, which she got offended by. Because it's like, why aren't you speaking Korean to me? Because I'm like, you don't understand what Korean is. You've never been to the country. You've never lived there. So how would you know what it's like to speak Korean? Because even if I spoke Korean to you, most of it's gonna go over your head. And it's just gonna be insulting. That door keeps on opening. Please don't judge me. Haven't been working out lately. Just kidding, I don't give a shit. I wish I did, but I don't care. I know a lot of people feel insecure when they see my body, and I'm just like, ugh, it makes me feel like I do act like I'm insecure when people do that. Because I'm like, yeah, no, I hate my body too. I have body image issues, and I'm insecure, and have body dysphoria totally. Probably think I'm getting an eating disorder, so I can lose all this weight. But, no, but, like, honestly, it's like, she was so, like, rude about it. People don't do that in Korea. Like, if you did that, like, they would kick you out of the country immediately and you would have no friends and nobody would talk to you. Like, it's like you don't, like, how are you gonna, like, live? That's why I was so shocked when I came here and I'm like, oh my god, you are doing that in public? Oh my god. No other people can see you? Jesus. Jesus Christ. Weird. But, that's like what that was, and I hated her for it, but I did learn something from her, which is don't learn languages just to understand what people are saying. So with like different languages, so I'll be honest, the foster family that I lived with, they were Chinese. So ethnically they're Chinese, and they're still very Chinese even though they immigrated to Korea, and I think one of them was born in Korea. But everything's still in Chinese for them. And like it makes sense if you would understand what they're doing and what they're like, even if they spoke Korean, because you'd be Chinese. Like if you were a Chinese person and you lived in China and you're like, okay, I know what that is. I know what type of person that is, and I know like people like that live in China, and like I've seen people like that in China before. That's what that was in for them. And that's how I kind of picked up Chinese. Also, back then, long time ago, Korean people, they actually went by the Chinese characters. So like they still knew how to read and write in Chinese before they created their own language. So that's kind of, again, when I was younger and I went to grade school and like elementary school and stuff like that, they taught Chinese characters in school, kind of like how they teach French in schools here. So in Canada, when you go to primary or elementary school, you learn French and English. It's mandatory until grade 10, so you are legally required to take French as a subject until grade 10, and after grade 11 and grade 12, it's optional, so you don't have to continue taking French. But until grade 10, you are legally obligated to take French, so everybody had French in school. They were taught French in school. Not a lot of kids spoke French at school. Everyone spoke English, but they were taught French in school. Other than that, I think it's like that in USA, except with Spanish. So people are taught Spanish in schools, whereas in Canada, people are taught French schools. What else? I like one of my favorite movies is called Emily, which is in French. And I know how to make French food. It's actually the easiest to make, and because there's so much like European immigrants here, and most of the grocery stores that are chains are they only stock European food for some reason. Like it's most of the vegetables are like European vegetables. So like if you go to Europe, you'll find the same foods there. I don't know if they're doing that intentionally to try to get people to immigrate to Europe, even if you're not European. So like they're trying to get people to move to Europe that way. Not sure. I need to freaking go to the mailbox and pick up my mail stuff soon because my nails are getting long and it's been bothering me. But other than that, my roommate has to give me a copy of the keys before I can go anywhere, like that long, unless he wants to come with me, but like by the time he's done work, the mail place is already closed, which is the problem. I don't know what days he works, actually. But anyway, with me personally, when I went to school in an area where at first, The thing with European kids I've noticed is that it doesn't matter if they're born in America or not. They're still exactly like the people back in Europe. So if you meet a bunch of French people here who were born in Canada, like even if they're third generation French people, and they consider themselves to be American, they behave and do things exactly like people back home, even though they've never been to France. It's not like that with the East Asians, and it's not like that with like specifically Korean kids, and it's not like that with I think other racial backgrounds. But I've never met another racial background person who was born here. They're usually immigrants. So I knew a girl in who came from Hong Kong. She told me that her parents actually had her when she was a baby and then brought her over shortly after her mom gave birth to Canada. So she'll get her citizenship card soon. So she was the one. She told me that because she was telling me like because it's kind of the same for me where I was born in Korea and then they brought me over to America. And then that was that. Uh, the kids that I went to school with, even in elementary school, which is called primary school in the UK, I was in the UK before, so that's where I learned English. Most of my English was taught to me, the grammar and all the structural sentencing and everything was taught to me in England, in the UK, when I was a really young child. And then, um, so I know what it's like to be in England. Like, I've been to Britain, so I kind of understand the general things about England. When I was growing up, there was a lot of Persian kids, so people who spoke Farsi, and a lot of Afghani kids. So there was like people who spoke Pashto or Pashtun or something, and they spoke Farsi. A lot of them were Muslim, so predominantly most of them were Muslim, so they knew how to read Arabic. Um, there weren't a lot of other background kids. There were a few kids from like different areas of East Asia, but they're not too different from each other in the way they go about doing things. I guess it's kind of confusing for some people, but very different. So it's not like there was a lot of Vietnamese kids, there were a lot of Chinese kids, there were a lot of Korean kids, there were a lot of Filipino kids. There was a lot of like some Cambodian kids. There were some Laotians. Most of them were mixed, so like they were either half Cambodian, half Laotian, or half Filipino and half Laotian, that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, that's the type of kids that I went to school with and I grew up around. A lot of Russians, actually. A surprising amount of Russians living here, but they, like Korean people, they actually just stick to other Russians. So like Korean people, they like to kind of keep to other Koreans too. So that's kind of why, like how I realized like that it's easy to notice that kind of stuff. A lot of Russian Jewish people. There was a lot of there were some Polish kids, but I don't think they told anyone that they were Polish. A lot of weird European countries I've never even heard of, like Macedonia, Latvia, Lithuania. I forget what they told me they were from. I think they spoke some Slavic languages as like a second language. Um, yeah, like Bulgaria, Romania. Oh, I met a few Romanian kids too. But yeah, they're like super European kids where their families like still they don't speak English at home and they still go to like those European delis. Only other people from their country would go to because they don't care the specific foods there. Whereas Korean people, they actually just go to any grocery store with the vegetables and stuff. For Korean specific items, you're gonna have to go to an Asian grocery store because most Asian grocers stock it. So like even if it's not the same brand, you can still substitute it for something else. So it's fine. Um, what else? Yeah, so that's how I kind of got around like that. Like I got used to like I said, the girl that was trying to speak Korean, she was from Iraq, and there were a lot of Iraqi kids too. So that is kind of like how I mean, already like people know immigrant areas aren't very wealthy or affluential areas. So I mean, they seemed affluential and wealthy. Some of them really did behave and look the part. but a lot of them weren't. But honestly, I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that they were just like disliking the area, or if they had like some sort of problems or something like that, or they're like getting hate or facing discrimination. Who knows? But that's how I kind of picked up on some stuff. There were some Persian kids, but again, they don't really like hanging out with non-Persian. Oh, there's a lot of Greeks too. So like nobody really like, they typically tend to stick with kids who are from the same background. So that's kind of where not always, like obviously everyone like kind of like mingled and stuff, but I just noticed that most people like to hang out with kids who they could feel something in common with, even with language. Anyway, that's how I learned how to pick up on a lot of languages, and a lot of guys dated me. Someone said that it wasn't a date, but it was a date. It was totally a date. I'm like, okay, if you don't want us to call it a date, then let's not call it a date or whatever. You're kind of forcing me to go out with you anyway. That's how most dates went. I wouldn't have said yes if they didn't force me, which was their point. They're like, if I didn't force you to go on a date with me, you would have said no. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have to go on a date with you. That's my point. I don't understand how this is hard for you to comprehend. Why is it so hard for you to understand that I don't have to say yes to you? And they're like, yeah, I know that, which is why I'm forcing you to say yes to me. And I'm like, I'm still not saying yes. I'm saying no, but now I'm still gonna go through with what you're asking me because you're forcing me to do so. That's insane. But I found out a lot of people in Toronto like that. The high school that I went to in grade 11 and 12, because they were like straight from Europe, a lot of them were very physically attractive. Like they weren't born here, most of them. They were immigrants like everyone else, except they were all from Europe, in different areas of Europe. Whereas I was immigrant from Korea, living with Chinese foster family. I mean, realistically speaking, somebody hired some people to look after me. So I'm like, oh, gee, think it was like living at boarding school. Yeah, that's what that was. That's what that was like. I was like at boarding school all day, every day, and I was like, oh, this sucks. Yeah, it was like living at boarding school. My entire life was a boarding school, and I'm like, well, I guess I hear rich people put their kids through boarding school all the time, so I guess whatever. But yeah, no, like I also, again, I actually lived in a neighborhood where there was a lot of African Americans, or Jamaican people, or people, excuse me, from Guyana and stuff like that. So I kind of picked up on their behavior and like what they were saying that way too. So some of them were like second generation, third generation Americans, so they didn't really consider themselves to be African anymore. But some of them were from Africa, some of them from Jamaica, some of them from like the Southern America parts, but they were like born there, so like, and they like lived there for a while, so they consider themselves from the country. So that's how I learned a lot of things. I actually went to school in Russia too when I was a kid, so I learned how to speak Russian there. The reading and writing part, I kind of have to refresh myself a little bit. I gotta refresh my memory. I'm like, I forget how to speak, and I mean, I forget how to read and write, but I know, and I'm not like super consciously aware of how they're saying things or what it means. So I kind of have to like relearn, I guess. It's kind of like, I was in a coma for a bit, and then I woke up, and then I'm like, damn it, now I gotta like update my brain. But yeah, that's what that's like. Um, I dated, okay, the guys that I've dated. I dated a Jewish guy, but he was actually Russian. I think they were Jewish immigrants to Canada, but they used to live in Russia or something like that. I have no idea what happened there, but I don't think they were specifically Russian. Like, I'm pretty sure he was a Jew. Like, not anti-Semitic way, but I'm like, you sound and act and talk exactly like you do. You know, walk like a dog, it talks like quacks like a duck, it's a duck. That kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. He told me he was Russian, and he did speak Russian very fluently. And he didn't even have like the weird English accent that people have when they speak Russian here. So I was like, oh my god. And like my piano teacher spoke Russian fluently. She was from Russia. That was, I hated her. Oh my god. She was literally the worst. Like, I don't know why anybody would hire her. But again, it was thanks to the foster family who was being paid to take care of me. Um, I don't call them foster, like, fine, I can't, like, my council of elders. My advisors. I'm like, Jesus. They're the worst. Um, and what else? Hungarian guy, but he was ethnically French, which is weird. So he was from France, like his family is ethnically from France, but I think they immigrated to Hungary and he was born in Hungary. So he spoke Hungarian, he didn't speak French, but the way he did things was really, really French. So I was like, gross. But yeah, so I picked up Hungarian from him, like the things that they mean, like, and the things that they say and how they describe stuff as, like, because he hung out with only other Hungarians because he considered himself to be Hungarian even though he was ethnically French. And everyone there was I lived in the apartment building where it was just Hungarian people. So, like, not just Hungarian people, there were some Guyanese and some Jamaicans too, not a lot of Africans. I didn't see any Africans there. I saw a lot of Jamaicans and some Guyanese people. I had a Guyanese roommate, not roommate, a Guyanese flatmate. I keep saying roommate when I had a flatmate. I had housemates and had flatmates. Guyanese flatmate, and she was like super Guyanese. Even though she didn't have accent when she spoke English, like I think she spoke in an accent like the Guyanese style of talking with other people. Oh, and also I met some people from Trinidad and Tobago, and they're like, I don't know how to describe it. Their accents are different when they speak English. That's how I can tell. But otherwise, yeah. So that was she was from Guyana, the flatmate, and I was dating an Iranian dude at the time. He was Persian. He told me he was Persian. I actually don't know if he was Persian. He spoke Farsi and Arabic. Actually, he only spoke Farsi when it was just the two of us. And then when he was hanging out with his friends who were mostly somewhat, I think one of them was Afghani and the other one was actually Saudi. And the rest were just like different backgrounds, and they usually spoke English, but every time we went out it'd be to like this really, really like Arabic place, right? So like I think it was owned by Saudis. So like every time we went to Saudi business or something, like he only spoke Arabic in public. Because his friend that he hung out with us also quite frequently was also Saudi. Oh my god, I just realized something. Anyway, yeah, he spoke Arabic, but he spoke Farsi when it was the two of us. Like, not to me directly. Like, every time somebody called him, it was like he'd speak only in Farsi and he'd play Farsi songs all the time, and I'm like, okay. And I kind of like picked up on the language that way. Farsi. Um, I met a few Greek people. I didn't really get what they were trying to say. Some people have told me that they were just being lazy and they were only speaking properly. So I was like, okay. But yeah, that was it. What else did I do? Yeah, so that's how I kind of learned because I was dating a Hungarian guy, kind of like sort of Hungarian, on the surface level Hungarian, realistically he was French. Um, and then there was a Persian guy. So they could have been from any ethnic background, but as long as they were Persian, which is from Iran, or like have lived in Iran and have a citizenship from Iran, they're considered Iranian. Um, there was a Russian dude. He's crazy though. Like that guy's psycho. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with that guy. Oh, cause he probably owes me money. He's only to pay me back, and I'm like, what the fuck? Are you a Jew or something? It's fucking weird, dude. I did hang out with a few Korean kids, but they all moved back to Korea after a few years. I guess like their parents didn't like them getting educated here, and they didn't really want them to stay here too long. I was like, let me back to you. Take me with you. um, I didn't speak too much Russian. Like, I was taught piano in Russian. I guess that way no one else can rip off of me, or like the neighbors wouldn't understand it. So like they're not copying her techniques of teaching piano or something. Like she's some great teacher or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, she spoke directly translated from Russian as if I wouldn't understand what she was saying. And I'm like, oh my god, this woman's an idiot. And the foster dad actually had to come by and pick me up that day and tell her I can speak Russian. We are hiring you because she can also understand Russian. It doesn't even matter if you're directly translating it to her in English. She knows what you're saying. And I'm like, why can't you just, why would she, like, it just, to me, I thought it was ridiculous that somebody else had to come and tell her that. I'm like, do you not see my facial responses to you? I thought it was obvious enough. Okay? Anyway. Um. Awful woman. Would not recommend to teach any kid. But, what else? Who did I date after? There was a Jewish guy that I was dating. But I hated that guy. And he spoke actually Hebrew, Jewish, and Russian all equally terribly. He sucked at speaking any language fluently, including English. But he can understand and speak 3 different languages. I'm like, you're shit at all of it. So what's the point? Why do you even bother? I didn't understand why he even tried. Like, why? I'm like, I didn't want to embarrass him by, like, saying anything, but I'm like, I'm not gonna, I think he was trying to get me to speak Russian to him. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not happening. I'm not gonna help you improve your Russian speaking skills, because you're a disgusting person. He's a complete pervert. So I was like, no thanks. And also, I don't want you to improve your skills in Russian, and somebody's like, who taught you that? Where are you learning this? And then have that person come after me and be like, how can you even teach this guy how to speak? And I'm like, I didn't do that. And I'm like, why are you speaking to him in Russian if you know he's shit at Russian? Obviously, he's trying to get you to teach him. And I'm like, I didn't. So I didn't actually. His Russian, I think got worse. Because I think I was subtly correcting him when he was wrong, and he just went against that. He was like, no, you're wrong. And then I was like, okay, dude. I don't know. So, I don't know why we would do that, but yeah. Spanish, I'm trying to learn. My roommate speaks Spanish, actually. I think that's his first language. I'm not really sure. No, that's not his first language. Oh my god. He's trying to trick me. Excuse me. I think his first language might be like, he told me he was Jewish, but I don't believe him. I don't think he's Jewish. He speaks Russian and Spanish. And he doesn't speak English very well. Like, I don't know what his first language is, to be honest. And I was like, yeah. So, I had a guy named Flatmates, so I know what they're like. They told me that she didn't do it right. But the right thing she did do is actually get me to leave her and not stay with her for too long. Because I learned later, because I was 19 at the time and I was really young and I just needed a flatmate, and all my other friends had actual flatmates too, so it wasn't too weird. But they told me that because there's such a huge age gap, and also if you actually stayed with her, it would have been worse for her and myself later on. Because apparently they're like, you actually, two women aren't supposed to be flatmates or anything or share a house together for an extended period of time. It gets really weird. Like, it gets really bad. So I was like, oh shit. And they're like, yeah. So she's like, yeah, she didn't, I mean, she did it the wrong way. She ended up stealing from you and all that kind of stuff. But in all fairness, you didn't actually do anything bad to back to her, and she wasn't even supposed to do that. After the lease was up, well, she knew this. That's what they said. Don't believe her when she says she didn't know about this kind of stuff. She knew that she was supposed to actually tell you the lease is up and you're gonna have to find another flat. Like, she wasn't supposed to actually just kick you out and steal your things. Like, that wasn't okay for her, and things would have ended still well for the both of you if she just followed by the lease and did what she was supposed to do. Like, she wasn't supposed to, like, blah, 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 go crazy on you and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, but at the same time, it's kind of like, what did you want me to do about that? Like, I already contacted the police when she was stealing from me and, like, stealing rent and stuff. And I think they were like, yeah, like, honestly, she would have been fine if she didn't do those things, so that's on her. It's, like, not your fault. And I was like, ugh. I still didn't want to go through that, though. But, oh, I worked for a lot of Italians, so... Except for one guy who's actually Jewish, but he said he was Italian. I think he changed his name and everything and tried to make himself look as Italian as possible and even learn how to speak Italian, but I was like, yeah, that's a Jew. Who else did I date? Oh, I dated a guy from Hong Kong. Again, it wasn't too far off from what the foster family was like, in all honesty. Except, like, the foster family was from mainland China, and Hong Kong's an island off of the coast of China. So they're not really, like, similar. It's nothing to do with islanders or mainlanders or anything. They're like, they actually used to be a separate country before the whole, like, British invasion and then the China taking over and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they were from Hong Kong and they spoke Cantonese, and they were very hospitable towards me despite the fact that they weren't doing something right. So that's what kind of, like, set me off, when I was like, well, how are you still okay even though, like, like, you're not, like, how some people assume that, like, oh, if you do a bad thing, you're just a terrible piece of shit person, you're gonna die. Yeah, they were, like, still pleasant, and they were able to, like, maintain a conversation, and, like, they weren't like trying to stab me or, like, sell me into prostitution or force me to take drugs, or they weren't like drugging my food and drinks and stuff, and they weren't like stealing from me and stuff like that. And they're okay with me using their stuff, and they would never like really, it never felt like I was being ostracized. Like, they weren't like trying to push me out or like whatever, but even though, like, his son wasn't doing something right, he was like actively raping me. And they were like okay with it, and they were like didn't care. And he was actually like the guy that I was dating at the time. I call dated loosely. That guy actually he was a criminal, but it's not in China. Criminals aren't like that, and in Hong Kong, it's a criminal in Hong Kong. So people won't really be able to tell until you get to know what he's doing, what he's like, and he like used to steal and stuff. And I was like, makes sense that you're stealing and raping people and like still bumming off your dad. That's a criminal in Hong Kong. But no, he wasn't a jackass to me, and he actually tried to like, make it into a real thing, which wasn't possible after what he did. Not that, like, I don't know, like, honestly, it's... Anyway, also, he had friends in the area, So he introduced me to his friends and stuff. Like I thought he was just like, lock me up and put me in a cage and like force me to never leave his room. Sometimes he did that. He was like, if you leave the room, I'm gonna like punch you in the face. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But yeah, but the pro to that was things were really bad with the foster family at the time, or the people that were being paid to take care of me. I don't know what they were going through, but it wasn't okay. I think they went crazy at one point. So like the more time I spent away from them, the better they behaved. So like it was a nice little getaway. I call that term loosely. It was like another place to stay at where I had food, shelter, and a bed, right, and internet access. Cause he had a lot of computers and stuff. He likes to tinker around with like computers and stuff like that. And then like he had even like game consoles and everything, and I could just stay there and like go on the computer and use the computer all day and stuff like that. Plus he had internet connection, so that was like a nice little thing. It's like, oh well, whatever. And he was like, I know he didn't say that, and no one would be able to know what he was saying, but he was telling me that he's planning to sell a house so we can all live in it and squat in it together. And I'm like, okay, this has gone far enough. I had to say something. So I did. I was like, okay, that's not okay. I am not okay with you planning to steal and squat at a location. Are you crazy? So then I was like, I would actually try to break it off with him for more than one time. And please let me leave. I'm younger than you. This is illegal. And then, like, honestly, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why won't you let me go? But yeah, that's what he was doing, and I was like really sick of it. And I was like, bruh, I don't know what to do here. Tay saw that. He was my friend. He was my only friend. And then he left the country and he's like, yeah, this is kind of, it's getting ridiculous. And I was like, you don't say. You don't even want to help me out. He's like, I can't, honestly. Your foster family is crazy, and I know the only reason they're leaving you alone while you're there is because something bad's happening to you here. And I was like, wow, thanks, Tay. It's like, I don't want those people following me and dealing with the cost. I'm gonna leave the country. Bye. And I was like, you're a bitch. But yeah, that was it. And I was like, and then some Russian guy managed to track me down after not talking to anybody from my elementary school and said that we have to date now, otherwise he's gonna poison all my food and he's gonna force my foster family into marrying him. So he's like, I'm gonna either marry you or any of your other siblings, and we're gonna be in each other's lives forever until the rest of eternity. And I was like, you're a crazy person, please leave me alone. I said that to him in Russian, translated into English, which is word for word makes sense in Russian, but makes no sense in English. I said, you're a crazy person, I don't like you, please leave me alone, I am not interested in marrying you. And then he proceeded to rape me and then spread rumors about me so nobody else would like me, so that he can make fun of me and still feel like he does part of everyone else, and then still can marry me after because nobody else would want to be with me because he said those things about me and people are going to believe him. And I'm like, you're an insane person. You're a crazy person. I'm getting assaulted by a crazy person. Please leave me alone. And then he got his Persian friend involved, who's equally insane as he was, to like try to like threaten me into marrying either a Persian guy or Nick. He's like, you can marry any of these Persian Iranian guys. I don't even have to know them personally. You can marry me or any of us, or you can marry Nick, but you can't marry anything else outside of that. And I was like, why don't you just leave me the fuck alone? Okay, can you do that? I don't want any of that, okay? You keep it. You keep that for yourself. Please, leave me alone. Didn't work. He was relentless in his pursuit of pitting me down to sell me off into marriage to somebody that he knows or anybody from his country. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he's like, you must marry somebody that we both know. And I was like, you are crazy. You are both crazy. You're both crazy people. And then he had a cousin named Marina who was also Russian. I actually don't know which area of Russia she was from because she got facial reconstructive surgery. Told me she was in med school in Australia. I actually don't know if that's what she meant. I think she was trying to say your friend Racine is a batshit crazy piece of shit. And I was like, I don't know what to do about that. If you want to tell her off and get her to get away from me and get her off my back, that'd be great. And she didn't do any of that. She's like, no, she's crazy. She's a crazy person. Like, I don't know why you hang out with her. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do about that? Like, what you am I gonna be like, yeah, stop following me? And because she's crazy, she's gonna still do that. I know everyone she knows, and they're gonna try to get me involved that way because they're kind of crazy. And I was like, what the hell is your problem? And then she's like, me and Nick had to crash at her place. We weren't even doing anything. Plus, like, apparently Nick wasn't in the mood. I don't know what that means. He's insane. And then, like, he trapped me there, forced me to look at her poor rabbit who's clearly being abused and overfed. And she tried to tell me that I was being abused and overfed that way. And I was like, I'm not being abused or overfed. What are you saying? And then she's like, you can sleep in the same room as me. In fact, you can even sleep in my bed. That's fine. And I was like, I think I'm just gonna stick with Nick for now, just because this is gonna be a weird situation. I don't want things to get weird. Please. And then, yeah, Nick actually went to the same university as me. He went to juvie. That's what he wasn't telling me. Oh my god. He really didn't like black people for some reason. And I was like, what the fuck is your problem? Every black guy that I talk to, he's like, I hate that guy. Don't talk to him ever again. I'm like... And he's like, oh, you can only talk to Racine, boys. She's crazy. And everyone that I know who's met her or who's seen her knows that she's crazy. So you can hang out with her. And I was like... Okay. I'm gonna go now. Jesus. Every date was awful. I have to be honest. Every single date that he's ever taken me on was awful. And I couldn't live with that anymore. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I am a person. I have needs. I have dreams and motivations that needs fulfilling. I can't be with you anymore. I actually never even agreed to this to begin with, so technically I could have left any time except you keep threatening me. Oh my god. What is wrong with you? So, yeah. That's what that was. And then came the Hungarian guy. So at first it was this weird guy from Hong Kong who said, you know what, you're better off with me. I know you're living in a shithole and those people are like crazy, and if you want to hang out with us, you're gonna have to hang out with me too. And I was like, can I hang out with all of you guys? He's like, no, we're all hanging out today. If you ever leave the house, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'm gonna be like, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll just stay inside and play Sims all day. And then he's like, yeah, that's what I thought. And I was like, why are you doing this? And he's like, just trust me. You just don't want to do this right now. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. He's like, exactly. And I was like, I fucking hate this guy. Yeah. And then after that, what happened was, I went to school, university, and then I used that as an excuse to pry him away from me. He had like his tentacles and his like freaking blood-sucking fangs deep into my skin, and I was like, get away from me. I'm like, you don't even need me around. Like, you just keep me in your house for no fucking reason. You hate it when I leave. What the fuck is your problem? Get it together. I'm 3 years younger than you. You should be knowing this by now. And then thus I left. And then right into Nick, which is the only reason he left me alone, which is like, at least I know who you're dating, and I know that guy knows guys in North York, and you think you're gonna leave the area without me knowing exactly what you're doing. I'm like, that's called stalking, Kendrew. You're stalking me. That's a crime. We're not gonna be friends, and I'm not gonna marry you. Do you understand this? And he's like, it doesn't matter. We don't have to talk or know or see each other. You don't even have to know me. I will just know what you're up to. And I'm like, you're a crazy person. Do you know this? This is probably where the Facebook comes in handy, huh? Yeah, I deleted my Facebook account and my Twitter got suspended and I barely use Instagram. So all of that, so like no Facebook accounts whatsoever, and then it got worse. Like people just got like even more like, and I'm like, what is your problem? And then the Hungarian dude, Hungarian, yeah, he's Hungarian. He was actually French, and I actually was speaking French to him the entire time. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir, monsieur? Si, si. C'est la vie, c'est vrai. C'est, je ne pas quoi. Oui, oui. Yeah, anyway, yeah, I was like, I think I was talking shit to him in French. I was like, I wasn't, I was being sarcastic, but it was in French. And I was like, ah ha 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 ha. Ah. But yeah, he got more and more angry the more, like, the one time I was like, you know what? Your first language is Hungarian, and I think we have a language barrier. I am willing to learn Hungarian for you. I'm kind of getting the gist of it because you hang out with a bunch of Hungarians who you call gypsies, but they're not actually gypsies. I think they've been calling you gypsies, I'm starting to suspect. But you are actually hanging with a lot of Hungarian people, and I'm starting to understand what they're kind of saying, and I'm willing to, you know, learn your language. And then he just got angry every time I tried to speak Hungarian. I was like, what is your problem? Like, why are you like that? Can you stop? And then that was that. And then he just, I think he didn't even notice that I was speaking French to him. I was like, yeah, I learned this in school. You can have it. Yeah, I'm gonna just speak to you in English, but it's gonna be directly translated from French, so it's not gonna make any sense in English. Nah ha ha. To all you nosy eavesdroppers out there, because I was in an apartment building at the time and I'm pretty sure everyone was trying to overhear our conversations, I was just speaking French because I was listening to French rap and watching French movies when I was a kid to supplement my French learning at school. So I was like, ha 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 ha. And then after that, what was I? I think that was a Jew guy. And then after that was Tomer. Joe, the Jew guy. Sorry, and then after that was, what's his face? He was half Filipino and half European, of some ethnic background descent. I don't know. Apparently, his dad was just like a mix, so he was a mongrel. But yeah, his mom was Filipino supposedly. I think he was actually half Chinese and half white. That's what that was, but I don't know why they said they were Filipino. Yeah. Never heard him once speak Tagalog, but apparently he can speak Tagalog. But yeah, maybe they were half Chinese, half Filipino, and then his mom, who's half Chinese, half Filipino, ended up having kids with some white guy, and now he's just like a mix, so whatever. Yeah, dated him for a bit, kind of useless, but his friends were Cambodian. So I was like, could have been worse. Kinda, I mean, they weren't very good people. The started to suspect the only reason they left Cambodia was because they're criminals and nobody would even let them do anything because they could tell they're criminals right away. So they're like, if we go to a completely new country, nobody will know us. And they can't say anything because they don't know what Cambodians are like. They might think that we're just Cambodian and we're just different from them. And I'm like, what? What did you just say? It sounds like you're trying to steal or scam somebody. But like, why would people mistrust you? Why would anybody do that? But yeah, that was it. And I was dating him for a bit. He was really boring. He liked really weird porn, and like he thought like incest was okay. Maybe because he has no like ethnic racial identity, which is integral to a person's identity formation. Okay, because there's a lot to do with their stability and their social status growing up. Yeah, the foster mom lied about whatever. Like, she's crazy. She's a crazy person, but like she lied about everything. So I was like, oh, thank you. Oh, pig. um, what else? Yeah, so I was like listening to a lot of Spanish songs because Spanish songs are getting really popular. And some of the like Latina hits, like they're really nice to dance to and stuff, like bachata and stuff. So I was like, ooh, I like the music and the melody, but I don't know what they're saying. Maybe I should learn Spanish. So I'm trying to learn Spanish, and I'm like trying to like brush up on my Russian. So I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. It's so much work. But I will. So that's how I learned how to speak a bit. I learned how to actually. I hung out with this girl who was born here, but her family was from the Philippines. I spoke like I learned how to the Tagalog speech patterns a little bit that way. They weren't really saying it right though. But apparently a lot of the people who were Filipino there, they didn't speak Tagalog fluently. Like most of them, their first language was English. So they didn't know how to say it in Tagalog, which is this language in the Philippines. And then with his grandparents, they actually spoke fluent Tagalog. So I kind of picked up from the way they were doing things what it was like. But other than that, Italian's like I kind of learned a little bit. Not really. That's funny. um. Oh my god, I am so freaking tired. This video is 52 minutes long. Can you believe it? Like Naruto, believe it? Tatabayo. And also I really liked manga and like anime, but that was actually really popular in Korea too. That's the thing. In Korea they have like Korean dubs and translations for it, but it's not out of place. But every time I hear an English person do the dubs for it, I was like, this is really bad. I'd rather just read the subtitles. So that's kind of how I learned how to speak Japanese that way. Oh, I just realized something. But like I don't really know how to speak Japanese. I gotta be honest. I know some words and like their speech patterns and stuff. What they mean. I actually don't really know that. And then I learned Muay Thai, so I kind of know what the Thai people are like. Kind of. Just like from their self-defense and like their fights that they get into or whatever. And I went on a few dates with a couple of Greek dudes, and I was like, you guys are really boring. Like, you have nothing to talk about, and you keep trying to be better than everyone else, and you're trying to, like, assert your dominance and your strength and, like, your sexual prowess at every opportunity. And I'm like, dude, like, no one even asked. Like, I'm like, okay, everything is, like, literally fine. But, like, I don't know why you're doing that. Like, why are you trying to prove to me that you're, like, just, I am the manliest man in all of Ontario. And I'm like, okay. What do you... I don't know what you're trying to say. Are you trying to steal from me or something? Sounds like a robbery. But, yeah, it's just that's why, to be honest, I was like, yeah, I went on a lot of dates. I was like constantly dating, very American of me. To do that, and I was like, yay, dating! It's the new hip thing. Everyone's doing it. Going on dates and hanging out and stuff and such. And that was it. Yes, that's how I learned a lot of the languages. What are Greek people saying? I don't fucking know. I don't want to know, okay? I fucking regret the day I met those guys. I'm like, I wish you guys didn't exist. Seriously. um... Oh, and also I've been like watching this guy on YouTube nonstop. He's Swedish. So like he lives in Sweden land. And I know a thing or two about IKEA. Freaking love that place. And what else is Swedish? Parpe. Swedish. Yeah. Oh, I also learned to listen to a lot of European music. Like, people call it Eurotrash. Oh, that's why he was Eurotrash. Yeah, his dad was Eurotrash. I don't think he was mixed, but he's mixed. Yeah, yeah, apparently he died. Or something, and I was like, alright, I don't really care. I know it sounds insensitive, but I'm like, what are you want me to do about it? Like, I'm sorry your parent died, but like, I can't, like, bring them back to life. I have an SMS. But like, yeah, I'm like, I can't really do much. And if you keep bringing that up, I don't know what you want me to do about that. Like, I get that, and it would definitely affect me if that happened to me too. But, like, I don't think it's healthy for you to keep, like, thinking about that and making that the conversational topic and, like, the reason for your existence and the way you are every single time something comes up. I don't think that's progress to moving on. It sounds like you don't want to move on from that. What do you want me to do about that? Like, you're not ready, and you're not, like, you're not prioritizing or being focused on somebody else except for yourself. Even though you may not think it's selfish, it's kind of selfish. So that's kind of why I was like, yeah. But other than that, somebody tried to tell me to get a boob job, and I was like, no thanks. My boobs are already big enough. It's too big. Getting huge. What is this? Why do I have so much fat on my fucking chest? What is the purpose of this? Oh. But anyway, that's how I learned how to speak or pick up on different languages. And I always wanted to go to Dubai. I was like, it would be nice to go to Dubai. There was another YouTuber, and he was from Toronto, and he's like a freak of nature, and he's like a circus clown. And he's been talking trash about me throughout the city. I've never met this guy before. Like, keep in mind, like, he's a transgender, had like reconstructive surgery done to make himself look like a woman, and went to, like, got rejected at the thing in Dubai, and has been following me around from city to city, the gigi gorgeous person, and has been actively preventing me from getting any jobs by lying to the employer, saying that I used to work for him and I was his maid, or like I used to like babysit his cousins or nieces and nephews and stuff like that, and I used to like steal from them and like talk trash about them. And he's like, you can't even tell because she behaves so nicely, and like she usually won't do that, but like if you piss her off then she does stuff like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I've never met this person before in my life. Oh, that one's going to prison. That's what they're trying to tell me. I've never met Gigi Gorgeous before. I didn't even hear about it. I saw his videos a little bit on YouTube when it showed up on my YouTube history. I mean, not history, the homepage. You know when you type in youtube.com and then there's like a list of videos like popular trending, yeah, that page. Yeah, so I was watching a few videos from him and then all of a sudden like I get all these problems and apparently like I saw him parking his car outside of my interview date. I was like, how do you even know I have an interview today? Who the fuck are you? He's crazy. Like, a lot of people who live in Toronto are. And I was like, I don't fucking know you. Like, leave me the fuck alone. And I was like... But anyway, yeah, I was like, fuck off. And then, like, he, like, met Paris Hilton or something. And was trying to, like, flex on me. And then some other, like, celebrity named Paris Jackson was, like, talking shit about me. And, she was saying like what a crazy person I was and like people just owe you so much money but they're never gonna give it to you and like you're just gonna have to live like that. And like yeah, they know that they owe you money but like they're not gonna give it back to you and like, no one's ever gonna pay back for anything. Like you're gonna have to like struggle and find a job and like just hopefully you can just move on from all of this. And I was like, what the fuck are you saying? I don't even know you. And then she got like personally offended that I didn't consider her important because she was a celebrity and she has like millions of followers on Instagram and I don't care. She's like, do you know how important I am? Like, don't you know me? I'm like famous on Instagram. Like, oh my god. And I'm like, are you a doctor or something? Like, do I need to hire you for some sort of services, like an interior decorator or something like that? Like, are you a personal fitness trainer? Like, those people might come in handy later on, but I don't think you're any of those. So I'm like, no thanks. Also, I don't know you, and I don't know why you're calling me a fucking chinky-eyed bitch or whatever you said. Weird. But she's like, I have $1 million in front of my Instagram. My dad was Michael Jackson, okay? Like, he adopted me. You can see the pictures. Like, when I was younger, when I was a kid, yeah, he adopted me, and I have inheritance to his estate. And I'm like, that's good for you, but I don't care. I don't know why you're lying about me to all these people. That's illegal. It's called slander and libel. Like, I don't know why you're saying those things. And then I was like, I've never met any of these people in person, and I was never introduced to them, so I don't fucking know why they're doing this. And I don't understand why they thought that would, like, impress me. They thought that, like, I would be impressed because they're like, yeah, we're celebrities, like, we're super famous, like, a lot of people know our name, and I'm like, I don't care! I'm sorry, I have shit to do, okay? I gotta find a job, I gotta make money, to save up that money so I can purchase property so I can live off of it. Like, those are things that are kind of, like, it's pressing because I can't rely on the foster family, they're poor. Like, financially, they're very bad budgeting. Okay, they're awful with money, okay? I don't know where the money goes, they get enough to live off of, and then half of it goes to waste. I don't know where it's going, and the other two foster kids are dependents, as in they're incapable of functioning on their own without like, some sort of support in some way. Okay? So, look, again, I'm not looking to take care of any of these people. I just want to, like, move on and live my life, man. I want to go on cruises, and I want to go to vacations, and I want to have friends and colleagues that I care about and that I like. I mean, those things aren't going to come to me. I'm going to have to, like, do something and make sure that my life is something that I can actually say I did. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta start reaping what I sow here. I can't sit on my ass and entertain you. Even though technically that's your job. You're supposed to entertain me. I don't find this entertaining. I find it harassment, actually. It's unwanted. I don't think you're very good at anything. And I'm sorry that you had to live that kind of life and no one really loves you, which is very, very apparent. But I don't think I had anything to do with that. Yeah. How are you entertainers if you are so boring and no one finds you funny or entertaining? It's pissing me off. They're insulting me and they think that I'm gonna get into a fight with them and they think that I'm gonna chase them for the fight because people are gonna know my name, do the fight with them because they're so famous. And I'm like, why would I wanna waste my time? Oh, that's what they were trying to tell me. They thought that like I wanted money out of it. That's why they were calling me a whore, and I was like, I don't want to pick fight with strangers. I don't care how famous you are. That's what that was. That's why people are like calling me crazy. Like, are you crazy? Like, why aren't you like saying anything? And I'm like, I don't care about them. They won't leave me alone. I just want to relax, go to work, save up that money, and I can buy property, and I don't have to worry about rental units ever again in my entire life. Because it's a pain in my asshole. That's what I want. I can't believe they were calling me a Jew, and I was like, how am I a Jew? That guy said, fuck. I'm like, what are you talking about? Please. Please tell me what you're talking about. Like, what is it? This is how they look like. Because, you know, they get, like, so much work done on their face. And I'm like, are you living off of your inheritance money? Like, how long is that gonna last? Like, super weird. I'm like, I don't really understand what it is that they're trying to get out of me. I'm like, it sounds like you're just trying to steal from me. And I'm not, like, very fond of stealers. Or thieves, as some people call it. Okay? I don't like those types of people, okay? I don't. I'm sorry, I don't like thieves, I don't like liars, I don't like cheats, and I don't like swindlers trying to swindle me out of my life savings. Yeah, I got, you know, I'm not saying you're not important. And from what you were telling me, that, like, a lot of people know you and a lot of people care about you. You know? You know, a lot of people, like, they really, really, like, admire you and they really care about you. You know, you shouldn't ignore them. You shouldn't neglect those people, your fans. And, like, people who work for you, I mean, it doesn't seem like it because you're paying them, but they still care about you. If they didn't, they just quit. So, like, don't worry. Like, you know, there's a lot of people who still are looking after you and are concerned about you. Oh my god. So don't ever feel like you are, like, you know, alone in that kind of stuff. Like, I don't understand why you would, you know, pick fights with strangers. Maybe you're not going through, like, a good period of time in your life. You know, everyone gets affected by that at one point, I think. Some people do. Actually, I retract my statement. Some people go through that. You're not alone in that. And, what else? Yeah, you're not alone experiencing that, and also, like, you don't have to worry about, like, people hating on you and stuff like that. And, like, if you wanted to pick a fight with somebody, you could always, you know, find somebody who really wants to do those things with you. You know, you bothering people that are not interested, it's not helping anybody. And you know what? It might be coming as a surprise to you, but people don't care about your fame level or your skill level because people are busy with their own lives. Do you understand this? Everyone has their own life, okay? They have things that they personally care about and they prioritize. And even if it seems silly or trivial or insignificant to you, to that person it's important. So that's what they care about. And likewise, you have stuff that you care about, you know? So not everyone cares about the same things. So, I'm so sorry. That I don't want to pick a fight with some strange lunatic who just happened to be famous. I am starting to question the validity of their fame. And also, like, I get that you're not making that much money and it's hard for you to get your foot in the door. You know, you can't just pay people to hire you. That's kind of crazy. But you know what? The point is, things will get better. Please see a psychiatrist. Leave me alone. I think they're creepy, gross losers, okay? I don't know who they are, I don't know what they want from me. Some of them are like cockroaches, like the Madagascar hissing cockroaches that people keep as pets. Fucking creepy pieces of shit. And I'm just like... And all you do is feed them, and you put them in an aquarium, and you just stare at them. Some people like to put it on their hands, and it crawls all over your body, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. You know, that's how I feel. I'm like, you. I also, somebody told me that like some girls in your situation, because like you're physically attractive and you have social skills, like you can like talk to the celebrities, like directly DM them, and they'll like send you money and stuff, and you can ask them for money. And I'm like, are you telling me to be a fucking prostitute? Because that's prostitution. You know that? That's called prostitution. And they're like, no, like you're like, yeah, I know this is a problem in Japan. It's rampant in Japan, where these young girls are getting into relationships with men specifically for money. They do exactly that. It's illegal there too. And they were like talking about it, and like they were writing like all these horror novels about it, which I read online, translated by some guy who was volunteering to do the translating, because I don't even know that guy. But he says he can translate that, and he just put it online so other people can read it. So I was like, oh my god, that's prostitution. They're like, yeah, it's prostitution, it's bad, you're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. I'm like, and then they're like, no, it's not prostitution if you're friends with them and like you're in a bind and you kind of need some help. And then I was like, even then, like I would actually have to like end up meeting them and moving closer to them and like making time so I can like go see them in person, or like they'd have to come see me in person, and like I'd be friends with them after, and like I'd have to find a way to like be close to them like physically. And what if they like, you know, what if we don't like each other, and like it's just like a stress for everyone. And it's like, okay, so like I can't get into a relationship specifically because of monetary reasons. Like I'd actually have to get to know that person and like them. And then they're like, no, just ask them for money. It's like a donation. And I'm like, that's literally called prostitution. You can think whatever you want. You can justify however you want. Prostitution is prostitution. And that's what the cops were expecting me to do, because they got in shit and they're facing prison sentencing. So they're like, can you just be a prostitute now? Like, can you just ask any of these guys for money? I'm like, how about you go fuck yourself? I'm not doing that. I have self-respect. I respect myself and my country way too much to do that kind of shit. I'm tired. I'm like picking at my toes. Yeah, so that's basically what's been going on, how I learn all these languages. I'm like, oh my god, thank you for teaching me the ways of your people. Some of you I don't really like. Some of you I can find some stuff admirable. Most of you are criminals, and I understand why you left your country. Because they would have killed you, because you're a criminal. But it's fine. In America, if you haven't done anything yet, no one can really say anything. We'll be watching you. Yeah, I don't know, fuck. But yeah, I'm looking for a boyfriend. Like, people are actually concerned about me now. Even the bus drivers. They're like, you are 27 years old and you haven't had a boyfriend and you're still a virgin. Like, that's concerning. Like, you need to find a boyfriend soon. Like, you don't even have to marry that guy. Just find a boyfriend. Or like you can even get into a marriage, but again, there's so much more ramifications from being involved in a marriage than since especially you're jumping into something that you never have been experienced in before. You know, you've never even had a boyfriend before, you never had any sexual interactions before. But I'm like, what if that man doesn't want to marry me and I want to marry that guy because I'm not a virgin? And they're like, that's antiquated. Okay, that was like that years ago, like, you know, centuries ago. People aren't like that anymore. Like, no one really cares if you had a few girlfriends or boyfriends. Like, you can still have boyfriends and still get married to a different person afterwards, or marry the guy you were boyfriend girlfriend with. And I was like, is that how that works? And they're like, you know what? The problem is you're 27 years old and you're single and you're a virgin. And I was like, and they're like, what if you're a man? 27-year-old single virgin man, never had any sexual experience with women. And I'm like, that's not true. I've had sexual experience with men. And they're like, okay, fine. 27-year-old guy exactly like you. And I'm like, I would marry that guy. And they're like, alright then. Yeah, You know what? If I met a guy who's my age, 27 years old, exactly like me, I would marry him in a heartbeat. Okay? I would not, like, wait a fucking moment. I'd be like, I know it's gonna work out between the two of us. I'm gonna marry you right now. I don't need to try on all these guys. Screw those guys. Fuck off with that shit. I'm gonna marry you because you are the person that I know if we're gonna stay together forever. That kind of stuff. Ow. But anyway, yeah, that's my problem. I was like, I was concerned too. They're like, yeah, you should be concerned. You shouldn't be 27 years old and single and never had a boyfriend before. If you're a 27-year-old guy and never had a girlfriend before, would you think he's weird? And I'm like, yeah, I would assume he's like a huge nerd or a dork or like a geek or something that lives in his mom's basement and like has like 5 friends and like only goes off of Facebook profiles. Or I'd be concerned that he's been using too many OnlyFans accounts. You know, like going on Omegle a little too much, you know, like going to strip club like a little more frequently than they should be going to. Like I'd be concerned about those things. You know, I don't do that. So what's your point? And then they're like, I think they might be a little jealous of me because I still managed to keep my virginity even after all that. And I'm like, ha 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 ha, I'm still a virgin, unlike you losers. And I only do this because I only kept my virginity because like I was like Googling like what's marriage and like how do you know like it's gonna hurt to lose your virginity, blah 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 blah. And they're like, um what? That's crazy talk that I just was like recalling. Anyway, yeah, and I was like reading it. They're like, yeah, you know, I had a few boyfriends, or like I had one boyfriend before I met my husband, but I wish that like, you know, like I wish I would have kept my virginity, and that way the marriage would have been just that much more special. Instead of like, you know, we both knew kind of like what sex was like, and like been with other people, and it's just kind of like, no, she said that it would have been like a nice little present for him, and it would have just made it so much more like, it would have been more bonding time for them. So I was like, oh my god. Like, I don't want to like hold out for too long and like never ever get married and like die celibate person. But I kind of want to like. It's embarrassing. I just think about something. Yeah, I don't want to like. Yeah, that's what that is. I was kind of concerned. Okay, this video's going on too long. I don't know if you watch this too long. Why do I need a boyfriend? I feel like I should probably look for a boyfriend. But I've seen what girls go through when they don't put out, or like they refuse to let that guy touch them sexually in any way whatsoever. Yeah, they go kind of crazy. Some of the guys I met, we were just being friends. It was platonic, but they try to make it seem like it was romantic, or like they were like, you know, they try to make it seem like we're together and we're like doing things or whatever. And I was like, I don't really know about that. Yeah, like they thought that like we were flirting and stuff, and I'm like, no, this is not what flirting is. And he tried to like one of them tried to like even declare that we're like together now by like showing me to everyone. It's like, yeah, but he only was doing that so he can steal my stuff. It's like he's like introduced me to I've been to that homeless shelter before, and he's like, probably never been here before because I just got here, and I was like, are you gay? I think he's gay. But yeah, I was like, are you gay or something? Like, why are you stealing from me? And he thought that like I'd come back and like try to get my stuff back and like fight with him. And he's like, yeah, she's scared of me, which is why like she's not coming back for her stuff. And I was like, I just don't think it's worth my time and energy if I can just buy you stuff. But that doesn't mean you can keep my stuff or that I'm selling it to you. Like, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, why would I come and try to negotiate with a crazy person who's incoherent and doesn't exist in reality? If that makes sense. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but, they're not really seeing things clearly or understanding, like, what reality is. So, like, I'm not gonna sit down and have, like, a 3-day long conversation with a person who's, like, trying to convince me that I should just give him all my stuff, which is technically stealing. And it's okay for him to do that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. And he's the same person who just, like, we were walking and nothing was happening and he's got really angry, smashed his phone on the ground. So his phone was brand new. Okay, I could tell it was been, like, less than a year since he got the phone. He got upset, nothing was happening, right? He was smoking weed before we even, like, went for the walk, so he should have been, like, calm. I have no idea why he responded that way. And I don't know if he was on crack. I have a feeling somebody tried to tell me he's a crackhead, like he smokes a shit ton of crack. And like, I only seen him smoke weed, but he's been smoking crack while I'm not there. So he was like seriously high on a bunch of stuff. Oh, it was methadone. He was getting off of heroin. Oh my god, that's what that was. Yeah, he was on methadone or like, and somebody else had to tell me. I wouldn't have believed they were being able to see it, but they're like, yeah, he's actually smoking crack and he's on methadone. And I was like, isn't he supposed to be in a rehab facility treatment center? And like, nobody said anything afterwards. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? But yeah, he like ended up smashing his phone. Like, we were walking and I was like, we were going to the grocery store and then I told him there is this place where you can give like as much as you can. It's usually $5 minimum donation, but they'll make exceptions if you're really in need of food and you're like kind of struggling. And he's like, oh, okay. And then like I'm like, yeah, we can walk there, it should be fine. And then he smoked weed before we left, and then we were walking there together. And then all of a sudden, nothing was going on. He freaked out and he's like, do you see this? Do you see my phone? Do you see that it's not working? And I'm like, no, your phone's fine. Like, you have full bars and your LTEs or 4G, whatever, is working. Why are you freaking out? And he smashed it on the floor. So he went into the middle of the road and the cars were still going by. It didn't seem like he was aware of this. To be fair, I don't think he knew there were cars around him at the time. He smashed the phone on the floor. I don't know what happened. Nobody was texting him. He wasn't on a call before we left. I was hanging out with him the entire, like, 12 hours prior to that even happening. So, like, I already knew there was nothing going on. So I was like, why are you like this? And then, he smashed his phone on the ground. And then he's like, do you see what I did? Do you see this? You see this is your problem? And then I was like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, what are you saying right now? And then I went up to him and it was like he came back from the road, middle of the road, onto the sidewalk. And then I was like, okay, are you okay? Like, we don't have to go to the grocery store right now. And I was like, we can still go there tomorrow or like maybe in a few hours or something. And then he was like, no, we're not going to the grocery store in a few hours. I'm still okay. We can still go. And I was like, okay, we can still go. That's fine. We'll go. If that's what you'd like to do. And then he stopped after like 2 meters of us walking together. And I was like, because we were like, gave him some space because something was telling me something was off. I don't know what he was trying to say. He was saying some crazy stuff. Really embarrassing. I left him, right? Oh my god. I left him, okay, and I walked, like, I put, like, half a meter of space between us so that I was like, okay, seems like you kind of agitated. Maybe if you have, like, some space around you, you'd feel less agitated. And then, afterwards, he came up to me and he started spitting in my face. And I was like, what is your problem? I was like, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about or what you're doing. Why are you doing that? Everything was fine. You just broke your phone. I get that you're upset about that and you're trying to blame me for it. But I didn't actually do those things. You're the one that broke your own phone. Why did you do that? And he just left on the side of the road. He's like, I don't need this anymore. And he just, like, broke it, completely new phone. And I don't think he stole it. I think it was his. He broke it and smashed it on the road. And I was like, why did you do that? And then he got upset, even though I gave him some space and I asked him if it was okay. He started spitting on my face. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go away. And they called the police, which then they kind of implied that he actually was a problem or something before. I don't know what the fuck they were trying to tell me, but I think he's like a crazy person. He told me that, don't believe that somebody got fired. Or something. He's like, yeah, somebody. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, they're lying to you about getting fired and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't understand why that even is relevant now. And he's like, it means that they're not actually reporting anything and they're not doing their job. And I'm like, wouldn't that be obvious to everyone if that's obvious to you? And he's like, yeah. I was like, are you trying to tell me that someone's trying to stab me? From what he's telling me, he says like a bunch of crack dealers are trying to stab you. And they'll like stab me and hurt me and like put me in a shitty situation. And I was like, a bunch of crack dealers trying to stab. Oh, he's trying to tell me Wally's stalking me and he's trying to stab me. He's like trying to take his revenge on me because he thinks that I did something back to him. Even though I didn't do anything. He's the one that raped me and stole my stuff. I think, what is he trying to say? That Waleed thinks that we're together and that I, like, stiffed him? Like, I just left him on the side of the road or something? Or they're paying somebody to try to stab me to get me to the hospital. I have no idea. Doesn't make much sense to me right now. But anyway, he's crazy, man. I'm like, I let you stay with me in my sleeping bag and we were chilling out and everything was fine, and all of a sudden you freak out and you do that fucking shit. Oh, I think I'm like, okay, he freaked out, he genuinely freaked out and broke his phone. And then proceeded to spit in my face, and then, like, he was, like, walking back and forth in one spot and, like, yelling. Was completely incoherent, and I was like, what the fuck are you saying? And then, I think, like, it was because he was freaking out because he actually noticed people were following us. But I was telling him before this, I was like, yeah, there are people stalking me, which is why I can't even find a rental unit. And no one wants to hire me because there's all these weird people showing up at the freaking workplace and stuff. I've never even met them before. And he thought that I knew these people and I owed them something. That's what that was. And he's like, you must know them. You must have done something to get them upset. And I'm like, I didn't. I don't know these people. They keep following me around. And I don't know what the fuck their problem is. And then he's like freaked out when he realized I actually don't know them and they're complete strangers who are doing this. And he's like, no, this can't be. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you mean these people are people you've never met before? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, why do they talk about you and talk about experience and activities they did with you? And they believe those things to be true, or it sounds like they actually know you somehow. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never actually met them before. And they're like, yeah, they told me that you guys used to work together or all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it sounds like they're trying to scam you through saying that they know somebody that you've met before, which is me, and most likely you'll remember me because I'm attractive. And it sounds like that's what they're doing. It doesn't really sound like that's what they're saying. This is weird that you think that those things are true. But that's what I was saying. I was like, what? But yeah, I think, yeah, somebody had to tell me he was actually, like, coming off of heroin, and he was, like, he's going to treatment for addiction, and he was on methadone, and he was smoking crack. So I was like, what the fuck kind of bullshit? I am not going near that. And they're like, yeah, that's a homeless person. Typically, people who are like that, they're on the streets and they're homeless. And I'm like, is it because they'll, like, stab people for no reason because they're just freaking out? And they're like, yep. It's too dangerous to house them and nobody wants to house them. And I'm like, why are they putting me there? Like, they're doing that intentionally so one of them will actually end up stabbing you and killing you. And they'll go to prison and you'll be dead. And nobody has to know what happened to you or anything like that. And I'm like, that sounds like a Psycho's journal or, like, an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Like, that doesn't sound like real life. And they're like, you know what? Fuck you. And then they walk away from me. And I'm like, okay. Okay, well, anyway. That's been the end of my video. See you soon, subscribers. And hello to a new subscriber. I realized I gained 1 subscriber, which is great. Ow. I feel like I'm getting... But yeah,